Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. Two 4-player games have finished so far in this group and I'm quite happy about my start. I managed to win one of them and finished second in the other one, leaving me with 9 points, 3 points before the second place Lcfyx. And the game that we are seeing today is a 3-player game against Lc and St, and if I should manage to win this game, I could put myself in a really nice position, gain some more points against Lc, who is in the second position at the moment, so that would be quite nice, and now it will be interesting to see. Also, by the way, in case you want to participate yourself in such a nice tournament, the registration for the next year's World Championship is now open since some days, and I will put a link to the this tournament page into the description of the video, so definitely sign up for this amazing tournament. Alright, and now we are going to take a look at the game. I'm playing in the third position in this game, and first of all we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. We can see that there's a little bit of culture synergy in both H3 and H2. There's Fleming and Chaplin, as well as the Hollywood and the internet in H3. We also have Shakespeare, Darwin and Godey in H2, but no Bach. Then we also have some lab leaders with Bill Gates and Sid Meier, also Steve Jobs. There's no space flight though, but the Manhattan Project. Then Churchill is there for the military, no Gandhi, and there's Mandela. In H2 we have the Ocean Liner Service and Maria. That's a strong combination. Apart from that, not the strongest H2 wonders maybe, but the Statue of Liberty is there. Then we also have Nobel and Newton as some strong science leaders. Robespierre is only military action leader in H1, and then also those culture leaders that I mentioned before already. We have one military action leader in H1 with Jan Žižka. Nostradamus can help with the strength. We have the two lab and printing press leaders with Leonardo and Gutenberg. Genghis Khan can of course also help with the strength. We have Columbus, but there's no Suez Canal in this game, and also Isabella. We have the two science wonders with Silk Road and Universitas, Great Wall for the strength, St. Peter's Basilica for the happy faces, and then also Machu Picchu as a strong economically strong wonder. Lc starts the game. He has some interesting choices with Library, Stonehenge and Engineering Genius being available, and in the end he just makes the decision that he wants to have a nice wonder for certain and goes for the Library. That leaves St with quite a strong pick as well. He can now go for the Stonehenge and the Engineering Genius, so definitely quite a nice pick for him, and there are also some leaders coming down the road that he will be able to take at the next turn, so definitely a nice pick for him. And for me, there are, as you can see, the pyramids available in the row. I can take pyramids and frugality or pyramids and Cleopatra, and with knowing how much I like the pyramids, I definitely thought that this is maybe the best pick for me. But then I had to think a little bit more about it. I could of course go for pyramids and Cleopatra, but then I would have a leader and a wonder already guaranteed. But the thing is, I don't like this combination too much, because in order to use Cleopatra every turn, I have to delay my mine, or I don't delay my mine, but then I don't get value out of Cleopatra for one turn. It can definitely be fine, but I don't like it too much. And if I go for pyramids and frugality, then Confucius will be available for one civil action for Lc. St then maybe goes for Aristotle. He could even go for Alex, and then if he goes for Aristotle, I can go for Alex with pyramids and frugality, which I guess would be fine. But also I don't like Alex that much, but it would definitely be fine. But if St goes for Alex, then I really have to hope that there is Hammurabi revealed, otherwise I would be stuck with Sun Tzu and Moses, which wouldn't be that great. Also, I wouldn't know if those would be available for one civil action for me, even though it might be likely, because if both of those leaders, Confucius and Alex, are taken, there's definitely some card row movement. But if there's no Hammurabi, and if I take Pyramids Frugality, there are 5 new cards revealed, so it's definitely the chance that he will stay in the deck, then I might just not have the nicest HA leader at the end. And while I would leave Confucius for one civil action for Lc, which is very strong, and St then can have a decision whether he rather prefers Aristotle or Alex. So I didn't like this too much. I didn't like too much what leaders I might have available, and I thought about some alternatives. And at the end, I actually ended up taking Confucius. And with taking Confucius, I have first of all a very nice leader for myself. I deny a potentially very strong leader for one of my opponents, even though that's maybe not the biggest reason, because Lc can now go for Cleopatra for one civil action, who works very nicely with the library, because you can easily use her every turn while not delaying your mine in lab. And then St can maybe go for Aristotle, so both of them will still get a fine leader, but maybe not an as strong one as Confucius, while I have now him for myself. And I thought that maybe there's actually a chance that the pyramids might still be available for me. Because if Lc doesn't take the rich land or the cultural heritage, the pyramids wouldn't still be available for me at the next turn. But I thought maybe he will let it be discarded before my turn. He can go for Cleopatra. Maybe instead of building a mine in a step, he can build just a lab, and then he can take the rich land, which he can use in his third mine still then. So this is a somewhat fine card for him, and then he can make it that the pyramids will be discarded. But then at least he has to take the rich land, and I think that's maybe not the ideal turn for him. I think a better turn would maybe be to build a third mine first and also one step, so he has to do a slightly worse turn in order to make the pyramids discarded. If he doesn't, I do get the pyramids, which is nice. If he does do it, then I have Confucius with some additional science, making it a lot more easily possible to go into an early iron or something. And there are also the two wonders available that I like very much as a first wonder, Silk Road and Universitas. So there's also a chance that I might get one of those, and that then also could work out very nicely. And with that, I actually ended up taking Confucius at the end, but it was a close decision, and maybe just taking the pyramids could also be a fine solution. Now, of course, I was very interested to see whether Lc will deny me the pyramids or not. He will go for Cleo, that's definitely very reasonable, and then he actually won't deny me the pyramids, which is interesting, but could definitely be the right decision, because as I said, with having a science leader, with Silk Road and Universitas being in the game, there are definitely lots of options how I can still get a strong start. For example, there is actually an early iron coming down the row, and if St would have done the same turn, I might have gotten that now for one civil action, could start going for iron, maybe I can then go for Universitas, and then Lc has just done a worse turn with me, maybe still getting something nice, or maybe something even better if the right cards are available. So yeah, I think it's a fine decision by him to just leave me the pyramids, and this turn I will go for Confucius. I want to have the pyramids, and no, I could... There's a problem, because if I now want to take this early iron, I have to delay my mine, so there's maybe the idea to not take the pyramids and then just go for the early iron, start some iron production and go for one of those wonders, but I just like the pyramids a lot, and so I didn't want to miss out on them, because I don't know when those H1 wonders will be available. Now that I have an easy way to take it, I definitely want to take it. But the question is, am I willing to delay my third mine in order to take the iron? I can maybe even build an iron mine directly at some point, if I maybe build a second lab at the next turn. But with having the pyramids, I think it can be really costly to delay those. The resource production can really slow me down a little bit. It would take a little while until I can get into the iron, and with that I at the end just build my third mine, increase my population, I can work on my second lab, the pyramids, and at some point there will be other nice things to invest into, and I don't have to pay 2 civil actions plus delaying my economy in order to grab this very early iron, I think. Then I draw the vast territory and the legion tactic, which makes it maybe a bit of a tough decision what I want to do seed with Confucius the next turn. And as you can see, there's actually also already the second copy of Iron revealed on the row, which is maybe not ideal. Else we will take this copy of Canon using Cleo with building the second lab, and then St first of all reveals the development of crafts, also builds the second lab, takes the Iron with Aristotle, can develop it at the next turn. And so I have missed out on the iron very early, which is not ideal, but there are still other ways how I can invest my resources in nicely. And this turn, as you can see, I ended up seeding the Legion tactic. Of course, I can also think about not seeding at all, but I don't want to do this. And I also didn't want to seed a vast territory. First of all, that one can just be too swingy, and second of all, there's Columbus. And it could be very nice to maybe just have Confucius for quite a while and then get Columbus at the end of the age. So I seeded the Legion tactic into the deck. The development of markets is revealed, and together with the development of crafts, that actually allows me to just finish the pyramids immediately, which is quite nice. Then the question is how to spend my last 2 civil actions. I don't want to take Jan Shishka because I don't have a tactic in hand now that I seeded a Legion tactic. And with having the vast territory, I think I like it a lot more to be prepared for Columbus anyway. I could just take the Alchemy if I don't take it. There's maybe a small chance that both copies of Alchemies could be taken away, and then I would have missed out on Iron and Alchemy very early. But ST can go for 2 upgrades to Iron, and maybe he would take the Alchemy. Maybe also Elsie would take the Alchemy, but both of them have some stuff to do, and if there are some other cards revealed, maybe there's a reasonable chance that a copy of Alchemy could still be available, but there's definitely the danger that it might not be available, so it definitely could be an argument to take the Alchemy here, but there are still the Silk Road, Universitas. I think that could also be some nice ways to invest my resources in case I don't get the Alchemy. Maybe I could then even build a very strong H2 economy on top of those wonders, and with that I was not willing to take the Alchemy for 2 civil actions here. I could just increase my population and take the warfare, but now that I can finish the pyramids, I have a nice way of having a free population while not being into consumption yet, and the warfare is maybe not that much needed. With the pyramids, I would happily be willing to go into monarchy, and then I would already get my 3rd military action from there. And so at the end, I just ended up taking the knights. I just seeded a legion tactic into the deck, so I know that one less infantry tactic is in the game, and so having the knights, especially with maybe one of my opponents going for Janchishkas, I think is just a nice safety pick and allows me to have more options for my military. Then I do draw 2 cards, 2 strength events, so the next turn I might have to commit to one of those. I get a naval trade agreement offered, but actually when thinking about the Alchemy, it's actually quite likely that one of those copies will be available, because as we can see now at Elsie's turn, he actually needs all 4 civil actions to get out of corruption if he wants to finish the library. So that, of course, makes it almost guaranteed actually that one of those copies will be available, and that's also the reason why I definitely don't want to help him with getting additional blue tokens, because now he can finish the library, increase his population once. As you can see, he's still not out of corruption. He also can't build a warrior to get out of corruption, so he has to increase his population again. And now I forgot about this when talking about the last turn, so it's basically guaranteed that I still have another shot at the Alchemy, and with that, no, I don't have to take it for 2 civil actions. ST goes for 2 upgrades to Iron, and then he could have taken the Alchemy, but instead he goes for Janchishka and can maybe get a little bit more of economical value of Aristotle, and as soon as he needs maybe the strength, he can switch to Janchishka. I did now seed the Reign of Terror into the deck, but I was not too happy about it, because ST has Janchishka, and I don't have any tactic, but I don't want to miss out on the Science from Confucius, and at least I have a copy of Knights in hand, which can maybe help me to be prepared for this Reign of Terror later on. And then the event revealed is the development of religion, which is nice because I can take it, but it also makes my turn a little bit tougher. Because one card that is in the row I really wanted to get, and that is the Silk Road, which I think is very strong for me in this situation. I generally like it a lot, but in this situation maybe it's even better, or I'm in a nice spot for it, because first of all I have the pyramids already an additional civil action. As soon as I get a government form, I have even more civil actions, and I thought maybe there's even the shot that I will go for the monarchy at the next turn, depending on if I maybe need to invest into the knights or not, and then I'm at 6 civil actions. And I missed out on both copies of Iron, and the Silk Road doesn't take that many resources to finish it, so I think the Silk Road could be very strong for me. And a nice thing about the Silk Road is also that you can get some nice economical value out of it while also increasing your culture production, so you sometimes end up having a little bit of a culture lead, but when you use it nicely and get some nice value out of it, you also still get a lot of economical value, and then you can put yourself into a very nice position. So I kind of really wanted to have the Silk Road, but now that the development of religion is revealed, I don't have the option any longer to go for a turn where I just build my 3rd lab. That would be enough to get me out of corruption, in contrast to just increasing my population, and then I could maybe just take the Silk Road and the Alchemy, because both copies of Iron are gone. This copy of Alchemy is the last copy of Alchemy, and also both irrigations are on the row, so if I don't take the Alchemy this turn, then I have basically missed out on almost all of the H1 upgrades that I can go for, so that would be quite dangerous. And now I have to think about, do I really still want to go for the Silk Road, or do I just maybe want to go for the alchemy, maybe even develop it immediately and go for an upgrade. Maybe I could grab the engineering genius, or maybe just a rich land, which can help me to go for coal later on. Could also think about irrigation with the ocean liner service being in the game, and it's a nice way to get out of famine in case I should get that wonder. So I thought about those options, and it might be nice to get the alchemy. Also, if I don't take the alchemy, then Lc can go for it, and it gives him a nice way to spend his resource with Glio. But on the other hand, if he gets the Silk Road, he also can maybe spend the resource of Glio nicely. Maybe not as smoothly, but I still think the Silk Road is very strong once he has managed to finish it. So I think that would be a nice alternative for him. And and at the end, I just thought that I like the Silk Road a lot, and the benefit, in contrast to just going for something like alchemy, is that I get some economical value, but also the culture production. When I get, for example, the monarchy at the next turn, I have 6 civil actions. I have, hopefully with Confucius and the Silk Road, a decent amount of science, and then maybe with taking some yellow cards and having the civil actions in my government form already covered, I think there are some decent chances that I can do some nice stuff in H2. And hopefully set up a strong economy there, and then it can also always have some potential to just build an H2 economy, leaving myself with a very strong economy then for the rest of the game. And so I still went for the Silk Road. I could even just build a step of the Silk Road to get out of corruption, which could allow me to finish it at the next turn, but then I might not have the option to go for the monarchy at the next turn, and so I just wanted to get the science production from the second lab immediately, and that also I need to do this, of course, to get out of corruption. But I now miss out on the alchemy, so it could get a bit tricky if in H2 the solutions to increase my economy are not there, but I think there are some good chances that with being able to get even more civil action, some yellow cards with the Silk Road, I will be nicely prepared to hopefully fix my economy or go for some upgrades in H2. Then I draw 2 cards, the Kidnap and the Fighting Band. Lc goes for the Engineering Genius. That's a nice card for him. I could have potentially taken it away from him, but it would have cost me 2 civil actions, and I'm not sure if it would have been really worth it. But Lc can now use Glio very nicely, can also go for the Iron, so that's, he's definitely not in a bad position. As he seeds and opens the development of science, he will go for the masonry, scoring another science with Aristotle, will also go for the irrigation, then switch to Yanchishka, goes for the irrigation, but doesn't reveal a tactic yet. And interesting that he then was willing to elect Yanchishka. It could be an indicator that he really values the 3rd military action, or maybe he just didn't see how, he planned his next turn without taking a card with Aristotle, but him valuing the military action could maybe mean that he actually doesn't have a tactic drawn yet, and I have 2 of the infantry tactics at least drawn, so maybe if he expects to miss out on the knights, then maybe it could be important for him to get more draws in now. At my turn I will seed. I think I put a Confucius event into the deck if I remember correctly. The development of agriculture is revealed, and this turn I have to be a bit careful because the Reign of Terror is coming. I could either build another warrior, maybe reveal the Fighting Band tactic to get a bit of additional strength, but at the end I choose a different way to do it. I will go for Nostradamus, which is on one hand bad, because with the vast territory I think it would be very nice to go for Columbus, but there is at least no Suez Canal, which makes it a little bit bad to go for display, and I think it can be quite nice in this situation to have Nostradamus, because I think his additional strength could make it even more likely that I can just focus on upgrading my economy in H2, and together with the culture production from the Silk Road and the culture that I score when seeding events with Nostradamus, it could be that I get really maybe in quite a nice culture lead, and if I then also manage to fix my economy, I think that has the potential to put me in quite a nice spot. And of course Nostradamus is also helping me immediately being prepared for the Reign of Terror, and that could maybe mean that I can go for Nostradamus, and if I don't need to build any military unit at the next turn, maybe even can just finish the Silk Road at the next turn, so that could also then make it that I can build my economy quicker thanks to the strength from Nostradamus, depending on how much strength my opponents will get at their next turn. Then I will draw some cards. They have a cavalry tactic, another colony. So again, maybe a bit of a tough decision what to seed, but maybe I have a chance to get a cartography. Elsie seeds, and he puts the foray into the deck. Of course, that's not an ideal card to see with Nostradamus, because his strength isn't helping for this event. Then Elsie will go for Leonardo, will go for the knights. Elects Leonardo, goes for one more upgrade, increases population, builds a warrior to get out of corruption. With Leonardo is now at 6 science production, can score some additional resources, maybe can go for 2 iron upgrades, or maybe 1 iron upgrade and 1 building 1 knight at the next turn, so he has definitely a strong economy going. But he's only at least on 4 civil actions for now, which is maybe one disadvantage for him. Esti this turn goes for Swordsman. He has missed out on both copies of Knights, and he builds 1 step of the Stonehenge. The next turn he needs to finish it if he wants to finish it, otherwise he will lose it. And at my turn, as you can see, I seeded Inhabited Territory into the deck, and I will take the Cartography this turn, so that I can maybe also push the Vast Territory. There's no Suez Canal, but I was hoping that it could still be nice just to have a better chance to win those colonies, and also that I can push colonies into the deck with Nostradamus, making it that I have more cards, events that I can potentially seed without too much drawback, and then maybe score the culture bonus from Nostradamus as often as possible. So I seeded Inhabited Territory. The Kidnap is revealed that I've just seeded at the turn before, and in this turn, with my opponents not getting that much stronger, I thought that I don't need to build any military right now, and instead I can just finish the Silk Road. I thought about taking and electing the Cartography already, but the Inhabited Territory, and in case I should see the Vast Territory, then that it will only come in the next deck. There's of course a chance that maybe a colony has been pushed, but there haven't been that many indicators for it. The Cartography was not taken, and so instead of developing the Cartography, I also wanted to take the Urban Growth, because I have the Silk Road. It could be nice if there's no coal or something early, that I maybe also have the chance to go for an early scientific method, and then with having only bronze production, having 3 additional resources with the Silk Road bonus with this Urban Growth could be quite important. So I wanted to have this card, and maybe I can then develop the Cartography at the next turn, so that I'm prepared for the Inhabited Territory and maybe also the Vast Territory in case I should put it into the deck. Then I draw some cards, no events, but the Open Borders Agreement, which of course also is quite nice to have. LC seeds, he pushes the Barbarians into the deck, which could be problematic for me, because I will very likely have the most culture available, and actually there is a colony in the deck, so developing the Cartography could have been quite nice after all. Now I sadly am not able to win it, it's maybe also not too bad, but I mean, getting this territory for 1 warrior definitely would have been quite nice. Even though it's at least not H2 draws, or in H2 I think this colony can be quite a bit stronger even. Elsie will go for 1 upgrade to Iron, also develops the Knight, scores 1 resource with Leonardo, and is now at 7 strength with revealing the Medieval Army tactic. At least maybe I can copy this Medieval Army tactic, so that I don't have to go for a fighting band or a heavy cavalry tactic. Heavy cavalry will be very, very difficult for me anyway in my situation. ST will finish the Stonehenge, uses the Masonry for that, and then he will develop the Swordsman to get a bit stronger, to not be in danger of an aggression. As you can see, he still didn't reveal a tactic yet. Maybe he still, or very, very likely still doesn't have one, and now it might be his last chance in H1 to get one of those infantry tactics, so that's of course not ideal for him, not having a tactic for Jan Žižka. And now it is my turn, and this turn I wanted to push another territory. I will go for the Cartography this turn, and I might not be able to win both of those, but I have, I think, good chance to at least win one of those colonies with having the Cartography, and for the order that I don't win, maybe at least I have to can make my opponents pay a little bit with the Cartography, so I wanted to push that and wanted to have it in the next deck, so I didn't offer the Open Borders Agreement yet. And in this turn I want to get stronger, because the last event is the Reign of Terror. That was also one of the reasons why I seeded instead of offering the Open Borders Agreement. If I offer the Open Borders Agreement and then LC maybe seeds, maybe doesn't even seed, but even if he seeds, it could be that it isn't revealed, the Reign of Terror, and then ST might get stronger, especially if he has drawn a tactic, and especially because I was thinking that maybe his turn could just be to take and finish the Great Wall, get some additional strength, and then I might be in danger of getting hit by the Reign of Terror. And I thought, if I push now, first of all, there's the chance that it is revealed immediately, and even if it isn't, then there's maybe the chance that LC will push. In this case, I will not lose to the Reign of Terror. So I wanted to push before, and then maybe for the Open Borders agreement later. I will go for Knights this turn, build one, and then the next turn I can maybe copy the medieval army tactic. And then there are just a lot of nice cards for me to take on one civil action, a lot of yellow cards. I can maybe just take all of them, or I can maybe also take a copy of Code of Laws. It could be nice to maybe go from 6 to 7 civil actions with having the monarchy, and also it could be a nice denial from Elsie, who is still in 4 civil actions, but there's another copy of Code of Laws in the game, and ST I really thought maybe will either go for Great Wall or Universitas at this turn, and then Elsie might just get a second copy one turn later, maybe and probably also for one civil action, but not guaranteed, so it could still have an effect to take the Code of Laws, but I really want to be prepared to go for coal, scientific method, some upgrades in H2, and then I thought, and I also want to go for the cartography, and then I just thought that the Code of Laws is too much of a luxury maybe and could just distract me from doing more important stuff, and also it would cost me taking some of those yellow cards, which all are very valuable with having the Silk Road. So I at the end made a decision to not take the Code of Laws, and instead I just actually take all of those yellow cards, and then with my last civil action I will increase my population. As you see, I actually did not develop the cartography yet, and that could definitely backfire if both of my opponents seeds. But ST is the weakest, so I was hoping that maybe he won't seed, and even if both of them seeds, then it's only a 40% chance that one of the colonies will be revealed, but it would of course not be ideal. But at the next turn I thought I might want to offer this pact, and then I can develop the cartography at the next turn. The reason why I didn't want to commit to it this turn is that at the next turn I can develop it with the breakthrough, leaving me just with more science, because if I develop it now, I'm at 3 science and in 2 turns 6 science, which doesn't leave me with enough science to go for coal in 2 turns, and I thought it would be very nice to be prepared to go for coal in 2 turns, and that I can only do when I develop the cartography with the breakthrough, and so I made a decision to wait with that for 1 more turn. Then I draw the new deposits and a scientific breakthrough. Elsie seeds and opens the Reign of Terror. I was very happy to see this out of the deck, and ST will now lose 1 population at his turn. And then Elsie of course will go for the Code of Laws, but the next copy is already coming down the row, so as said, he might have gotten a copy 1 turn later anyway. It's of course better for him to get it 1 turn earlier, saves him 1 civil action, but no, I still, no, I didn't want to pay the price just to go for denial for that. ST doesn't seed, so there's no colony revealed, which is very nice, and I was very interested to see will he go for Universitas or will he go for the Great Wall. I was very confident that he will go for either one of those wonders, and he makes the decision to go for the economically strong wonder. Maybe he's thinking that he can be fine to defend himself for now, and maybe doesn't see a nice way to go really in the offensive, so he just goes for Universitas, and that prepares him for both H2 government forms, which is maybe also a nice reason to go for the Universitas. So for the next turn, because without the 2 science he would have only be able to go for the Republic at the next turn. Then this turn I don't want to see it, while there could be one of those colonies revealed, so I offer the Open Borders agreement this turn, and that will also save me a draw, because this turn I will copy to the medieval army tactic. And as you can see, there are some interesting cards in the row. There is an early copy of coal, which I was very happy about, that could really improve my position by quite a lot. There's also a strategy, which maybe is a bit costly for me, but could be very nicely used by Elsie. There's the first copy of cannons. I could even think about doing something, taking something like Code of Laws, and then the Revolutionary Idea to still have enough science for other stuff, and maybe also the cultural heritage. So there are definitely some different options possible. One big question this turn is, do I need to take the coal this turn, or can I maybe just wait for it at the next turn? And with SD only having 4 civil actions, I think going for a hate draft would be quite costly, and for Elsie as well, because for him the coal will be on a more expensive spot. So I thought about, first of all I have a full hand, so I have to make space in my hand. I really want to develop the cartography, so I think that is the first logical action. I will also copy to the medieval army tactic. And now I have 5 civil actions left, so I thought about just taking strategy and cannons, taking the strategy away from Elsie. Also I offer the Open Borders agreement to SD, because we both have 3 military actions, and Elsie for now is only 2, but if he goes for strategy he has 4, and is even a bit threatening, so I just thought ST is the better partner for this pact. And yeah, but at the end I thought this coal, being able to go for it very early, will really boost my position by quite a lot, and I don't want to risk that at all. Also, if I take cannons in strategy, I have a full hand, making me a little bit inflexible, so if there are some other very important cards, then it would be difficult to take them. So instead of taking strategy and cannons, I ended up taking coal and cannons, because I still wanted to have this first copy. Having the cannons can be very important, and of course I could have gone maybe for Code of Laws or some stuff for cultural heritage, but no, I think the cannons is just a more important technology. That sadly means that the strategy will be available for Elsie. I think that's definitely quite a nice card for him. Prepares him nicely now for both Constitutional Monarchy and the Republic. First of all, I was very happy to see that the Barbarians are revealed. Elsie seeded Immigration into the deck, because for now I am not one of the two weakest, thanks to being at 6 strength, but after Elsie's turn, when he will go for the strategy, he'll actually also go for Newton, values the civil actions now more highly, and maybe also the potential that Newton has, when he maybe will be able to go for even maybe something like journalism and gets an even bigger science boost. So he switches to Newton and is now at 10 strength, and now after his turn I would have lost the population to the Barbarians, so I was very happy about the timing from this event. As he doesn't see it, he remains the weakest. He still doesn't have a tactic for Anchushka, which is quite unfortunate, and so he makes the decision to switch to a new leader now. Interesting decision still, maybe, because he could have also had enough science to go for the Republic peacefully, and with taking the Revolutionary idea would have still had enough science to do some other stuff, and it's still very early. But on the other hand, it is still quite a bit of science saved, can maybe help him, and he has now the Republic while having also the third military action for quite a while, so this part of Robespierre is also quite important for him now. And so I think it's definitely still a reasonable decision, but it's also quite early, and he could have also gone for it peacefully. Maybe leaving himself open for another H2 leader, but with the strategy gone, I think now Robespierre is definitely nice to have, to just have the third military action available. Now it is my turn. I definitely want to start pushing again now, and with having this early coal, I wanted to push the new deposits into the deck, hoping that it will give me a big boost. And I forgot to talk about it, but Elsie actually also seeded a colony himself into the deck. It was the last one that was pushed into this deck at the historic territory. I was not willing to bid too much for that, just one knight, not my card, because I know that there are better colonies coming, and at the end I'm not able to win it, which is a bit bad, but at least Elsie has to send away quite a lot of his colonization cards, so at least that is quite nice, and maybe will make it a lot more difficult for him to compete for the other colonies that are coming. But it also helps him a little bit to not fall too much behind in culture. So I have developed a little bit of a culture lead, but also not the biggest one. Then this turn, of course, I definitely want to go for coal. And after having done the first upgrade, the question is what to do with my remaining civil actions. I don't have the most hand space, so I can't just take cards with all of my 4 civil actions. And no. I thought about maybe playing the reserves for food and increasing my population, and then I can maybe take a card, or I can play the reserves for resources and go for one more upgrade. The downside of that would be that I can't use the rich land with the Silk Road bonus, but I would get this upgrade done earlier. I have then spent the action already for the second upgrade, maybe leaving me flexible for the next turn, and while it's nice to get another population out, the vast territory and the inhabited territory are coming, and both of them will help me with the population, and then I maybe also rather need more resources to also rebuild my units. So at the end I just made a decision to play the reserves, go for one more upgrade, and then with my last 2 civil actions there are definitely some different options. I could take a copy of Opera, there's Anthony Gaudi in the game after all, also some Culture Synergy in H3, so it could be fine, and I could maybe also take the Engineering Genius. Could be very nice to if there's the Oceaniner service, if not maybe also quite fine for the statue, but I don't know if I will get one of those wonders. I have a nice chance to go for them, and I am already generating a decent amount of culture, so I just thought it is maybe best for me to focus on upgrading my economy even more, maybe just hopefully being able to build quite a booming economy, and then on top of having, and together with having a culture lead that I think has quite some potential for me and my position, so I just wanted to have the scientific method, and with that Maybe I can even seed a scientific breakthrough into the deck, and also have a hopefully guaranteed way how I can use the urban growth at some point. Sadly, I'm missing one science to go for the next turn, and I know that there's no event coming that gives additional science, but I thought at the next turn I can maybe just go for my last coal upgrade, making sure that I have all of those done before the new deposits are revealed, and then I can either take some yellow cards, or if there's the ocean liner service, then I can maybe also just go for the ocean liner service, which would be quite strong. I will draw some more cards this turn. The terrorism is not really an event that I want to push into the deck. LC seeds, he pushes the Ravages of Time, which could be a bit problematic for me, because when I lose the pyramids I'm down to 5 civil actions, and if I then don't get an H3 government form or the justice system in time, it could be a bit bad to be stuck on only 5 civil actions. The inhabited territory is revealed. I was not willing to send an army with knowing that a vast territory is coming as well. I have only an H1 colonization card, so at the end I'm not able to win it. ST is able to win it, but at least he has to send 2 units, which is somewhat costly, at least for him. LC this turn, interestingly, will go for the Eiffel Tower. I mean, he has some resource saved up and wants to invest them into something. Also has an engineering genius. Doesn't know if he has a chance to maybe get the ocean liner service, and I think the Eiffel Tower can be quite nice. Then he just makes sure to not fall behind in culture. He also has a strong economy, and while I basically first went for a bit of culture and a bit of economical value, and with having the monarchy in the Silk Road and now starting to build up a very strong economy, he built up a strong economy first, and now makes sure that he maybe also stays or doesn't fall behind in culture, so that makes sense. He can now use both of those engineering geniuses, builds a warrior, builds one step, and in order to get out of corruption builds the second step with the engineering genius. Sadly, that makes it that he can't easily use the engineering genius 2 on this step, maybe making it that he will only gain 3 resource out of it, but it would also still be a fine pick for 1 civil action then. As he doesn't see it, he's at 0 strength and wouldn't be prepared to fight for a colony, and so also doesn't have a lot of cards in hand. He will just go for 2 swordsmen, could maybe be a little bit in trouble. Has just sent some colonization cards away, but maybe he made sure that he is actually able to defend himself. Also takes a copy of Opera to maybe be prepared for some leaders in H3. And then at my turn I made a decision to push. I thought about a scientific breakthrough, but I think that might be revealed too early, because I can't go for scientific methods now, and then it could be revealed too early, and also it could give LC a really big boost, especially because I thought he might even go for something like journalism, and then he has a lot of science production. Could go for the uncertain borders, but I rather wanted to have a little bit more time until there's a strength event coming. I know that those 2 events are no strength events, the new deposits and the immigration, so I pushed the international negotiations to have a little bit more time, because there are some nice ways to build up my economy. As you can see, there's the ocean liner service coming, and I have the scientific method in hand, so just having a bit more time could be nice, but I also wanted to seed with Nostradamus, and so I ended up putting the international negotiations into the deck. The foray is revealed. I was happy that I'm able to win it despite having Nostradamus, as the definitely is a bit unfortunate with not having any tactic available, and I then took 1 resource and 2 food from that, so that I can increase my population once normally, and then I also go for the ocean liner service, which I think is very strong. I don't want to leave that to my opponents, and also it's just very strong for myself. I can now go for 1 coal upgrade, have a lot of resource production, and with the new deposits coming, I can hopefully easily invest into the ocean liner service and the scientific method very quickly. I could even, with the Silk Road bonus and the urban growth, go for finishing the ocean liner service and 1 upgrade. Not sure if I really want to do this. That would take all of my civil actions, and maybe it could be nice to also take a yellow card like Breakthrough, or maybe a copy of Selective Breeding to have a way to fix my famine later on at the next turn. But I can maybe also just go for scientific methods first and finish the ocean liner service later on, or do it the other way around. So I was quite happy about getting this ocean liner service, but maybe it could now be a bit bad to win the vast territory, or not to win it, but that it is in the deck, because it is maybe still nice to win it, but it could also distract me from building all of this stuff. But I also don't want to leave it for cheap for my opponents, so that could be a bit tricky now. But maybe if I manage to win it and still do all of my stuff very nicely, it can still also be very nice to win the vast territory. And I do draw some cards. Interestingly, the fortifications tactic, meaning that maybe I can now use even the vast territory to make a transition into the fortifications, which could be quite strong. And now I have to make a decision immediately about the vast territory. As you can see, I am actually willing to bid quite a lot for it. I was willing to go all in for that, but it definitely wasn't a clear decision because it definitely distracts me a little bit. Because now I'm very weak in strength and I kinda need to build some military. Maybe I can afford to stay very weak, but I don't have an H2 defense card in hand, would even leave myself in the danger of an aggression. So I might want to rebuild my military, but if I rebuild my military, of course I really want to rebuild it as cannons now with having drawn the fortifications tactic. And it's also definitely very nice being able to make this transition now. But if I invest into the cannons, then it will take me 2 more turns until I have enough science to go for the scientific method, and that would be I would be delaying it by quite a lot. Then I maybe don't have a nice way to use the urban growth then, and so I really thought about what nice options do I have when I win this territory now. Otherwise, I wouldn't bid an army for it. One idea was to offer the scientific cooperation, maybe to Elsie at the next turn, who has a lot of science and hopefully will accept it. And maybe even more because it will cancel the open borders agreement that I have with ST, and then I would have just enough science to go for scientific method and cannons at the next turn, increasing my science production, also building some cannons. That could maybe be fine, but it's definitely not guaranteed that Elsie would accept it, and no, and then that if he doesn't accept it, I still need to have a nice plan. But at the end, I thought it can maybe be nice to just go for the cannons and not develop the scientific method, because there are some ways how I can still go for scientific method and in the turn after, either with building a third lab, which is maybe fine because I have a lot of population now with having won the vast territory in the ocean liner service, or, which was also a reason why I was willing to bid for this colony a lot, Maria Theresa. I have the ocean liner service, I have a very nice yellow bank. Maria Theresa might generate me a lot of value, and if she is available in a row for me at my next turn, then I know that I can go for her in 2 turns, and then after electing her and getting 1 population out, I would be able to score the 1 missing science that I need to go for the scientific method immediately. And with having those options available, I at the end was willing to send an army away for this colony. Elsie this turn will get a big boost with being able to go for the Republic, has still a lot of civil actions left after that, goes for the selective breeding, wants to have a way to get more population going, and then will just go for 1 upgrade, finishes the Eiffel Tower without using the engineering genius, interestingly. I mean, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to get out of corruption. Maybe he's hoping that he can still use it on one of the other wonders, and then he goes for the journalism, and that of course has the potential to give him an even bigger science boost. ST seeds and the event revealed is the new deposits. That might be quite helpful for me, allowing me maybe to do some nice stuff at my next turn. For example, go finishing the ocean liner service and going for a whole fortifications tactic, so it's nice to see this event revealed. And then ST will use the additional resource to go for an opera, also doesn't want to fall behind in culture, builds 1 cannon, and then takes the urban growth, the breakthrough, and the frugality. Now it is my turn. As you can see, I seeded the uncertain borders into the deck. I will indeed go for fortifications tactic this turn, and then I was hoping that maybe I also can be the strongest for the uncertain borders, because my plan was now to at the next turn go for Maria Theresa. I have the fortifications, so hopefully I have good chances to be the strongest. And I also wanted to seed with Nostradamus. Of course, I can think about a scientific cooperation, but it might long term also just be very strong for Elsie at the moment. And also I can now score against some culture with Nostradamus. And also if I push now, and I will now get the strongest, I have a chance to maybe win the international negotiations immediately if Elsie should push. The event revealed is the migration, where I'm sadly not part of. And so building the opera also was nice for ST to be part of the migration. I will build 1 cannon this turn. I will finish the ocean liner service. I can then even build another cannon, reveal the tactic, making sure that I'm the strongest. I definitely at least thought about not going for cannons and just making sure that I can get a lot of science production going with the scientific method immediately, but with the international negotiations coming and me then having some issues to potentially because of an aggression, I definitely think it's not worth it, especially because I have a very nice way to get an additional science with Maria Theresa at the next turn. And with going for Maria Theresa, I also choose to not increase my population as my last civil action, because I will be able to do this with Maria Theresa at the next turn. Increasing my population doesn't get me out of corruption anyway, and I have a nice chance to take this breakthrough together with the Silk Road. It generates a lot of value, even though I have to think about if I want to use it even at the next turn with the Silk Road bonus, because if I use it with the Silk Road bonus, then I don't get a Silk Road bonus for the urban growth, so it might also only give basically cost me 1 resource if I use it at the next turn, but that would still be a very nice deal. And I draw the immigration. LC pushes. Also, I think I forgot to talk about what things he pushed earlier. I think I told you that he pushed the Ravages of Time, which is now already in this deck, and he also pushed Prosperity into this deck, but the event revealed now is the International Negotiations that was pushed by me. I was very happy that I am able to win it. LC lets ST pay 3 food to me, which I maybe don't really need, but with Maria Theresa it's still very nice to have even more food, I think, so I was not unhappy about what he has given me, and ST being low in population could definitely have caused some problems for him. LC then goes for the Rifleman, the Cavalryman, prepares himself for the military, but also really improves his culture and science production even more, going up to 9 science production, and that was the reason why I didn't want to push the scientific breakthrough, which I also could have pushed instead of the uncertain borders, which I still potentially can push, but I won't do it because I think it might just give LC an even bigger boost than I will be getting from it. Then ST will go for the second copy of Scientific Method, can save some resource thanks to the Masonry when he goes for those upgrades. It's now at 8 science production, and then uses the wave to build 1 more cannon going up to 10 strength. Doesn't reveal a tactic, so maybe he still got unlucky and has no tactic drawn yet, but he will soon be able to maybe copy the fortifications tactic. And yeah, his position is definitely also fine. He is a little bit behind in culture, and his economy is maybe equally strong, but probably not strong, and maybe even a little bit weaker than ours. Probably relatively similarly strong, so maybe he has the worst position, but I think at the moment every player has definitely still realistic chances to win this game. I this turn cede the international agreement, hoping that I maybe will be the strongest, so it could be nice to have the option to take some cards later on. And I also wanted to push with Nostradamus 1 more time instead of offering the scientific cooperation. Also, it would cancel the pact, but actually I won't use the pact this turn, so that isn't really a reason. Then the Prosperity is revealed. I gain even 1 more food, but that event is definitely more helpful for my opponents. And then I will definitely go for Maria Theresa. As you can see, I use the Ocean Liner service immediately. I will also increase my population normally once, so I could have done it now to save 1 food, but I came to the conclusion that saving this food will just be annoying. We can take a look at this at the end of my turn, and thanks to the 1 science from Maria Theresa, I can now go for the scientific method. I'd made a decision to develop it with the breakthrough. While it costs me 1 resource and maybe I can use the breakthrough later on for something different, I still thought it is nice to use it just to have more science available, and in case it could be very helpful, so that if I maybe can just save science up for 2 turns, then I will be able to be prepared to go for an H3 government form, which I think gives me a nice boost, and which could also be very important, because if the Ravages of Time, and that one will be revealed very soon, is revealed, I will lose the pyramids and I'm stuck on 5 civil actions, so getting an H3 government form might be quite important, and that might be more easily possible if I have the science from the breakthrough already available instead of having it in my hand. Then I go for 2 upgrades, going up to 7 science production, and with my last 2 civil actions I will just increase my population 2 times. I will have now 1 food and 1 resource corruption, and as you can see at the end of my turn I will be now on 6 food, meaning I can at the next turn, when I will have lost the 2 yellow tokens, increase it 1 time normally for 4 food, and then I will be stuck on 2 food. If I would have increased my population first instead of using normally instead of with the Ocean Liner service, I would be stuck on 3 food, and with having the vast territory and 1 blue token less, that could make it quite difficult for me to get out of corruption, so I rather just thought it might be nice for me to have 1 food less. There's maybe a small chance that I get the uncertain borders at the next turn, and then the food could have maybe allowed me to get an additional population out, but for that both of my opponents have to stay weaker, and I just thought it's maybe not that likely for that to happen. Then there's the international trade agreement pact offered from LC to ST. LC wants to have some additional resource production. He will go for the architecture, the reserves, the patriotism, the team sports, develops the architecture, builds even another journalism, going up to 11 science production, increasing his population, building one knight, and going for the Hussars tactic, which already makes him stronger than me, but at least it will mean that I get additional resource out of Maria Theresa at my next turn. Now it is H3. And ST will go for the civil service. He gets now 2 additional civil actions. That's quite strong, and I think it's maybe also a bit of a denial pick. Probably it's strong enough for himself, but I definitely would have been also a very strong card for myself, especially with the Ravages of Times coming. Then he plays the revolutionary idea, goes for the cavalryman, develops them, builds one, reveals the Napoleonic army tactic, is now 20 strength, and is now definitely in a nice military situation. Can easily go for one more cavalryman, and that makes him very safe, which is even important because I have a Volver technology in hand, and at my turn there will actually be the military theory revealed, and I will now I think I have now the chance to do some serious damage to LC with going for this Volver technology, and LC is definitely pushing and generating a lot of value, is catching up in culture with having his 10 culture production thanks to the journalisms in the Eiffel Tower, and also with his 11 science production. I think he is quite strong, and I think it could be very important to disrupt him now maybe a little bit to hopefully also keep me in a very nice position for this game. And also with having all of those population and Maria Theresa, I think it is definitely very nice to push for some military, because I definitely have an advantage over my opponents in that area. So I go for this war. I will increase my population, take the military theory, develop it, go for 2 cannons, putting me 28 strength with my last civil action. I will go for the selective breeding to have a way to fix my famine at some point without needing to build more farms. So no, I thought that might be quite strong, and LC, no, it might be a bit tricky for him. He has already a bit of an uprising issue, well, not really, because he can increase his population, but he doesn't have a lot of happy population. If he wants to build another army of Hussars, he maybe has to destroy something. He can maybe go build one team sports to get more strength. Can go for the satellites maybe, but no, he definitely could get harmed quite a bit by this war. So I was hoping that it will do some damage to him. Also, I will draw still 2 cards at least, not the full 3 cards, but it's nice that I still draw some cards at least with having gone for this war. And the Impact of Harmony I was actually quite happy about to draw, because with having had additional yellow tokens and now the Ocean Liner service, I think I can have the potential to make quite a big harmony at the end of the game. And at the beginning of LC's turn, I see something that I wasn't too happy about, because the promise of military protection is offered to ST. LC will now get 4 additional strength from that, and I was not too happy to see it. No. And the only good news for me is that it actually cancelled the International Trade Agreement Pact, so LC and ST both lose some value there. ST of course gets some additional culture production. Also interesting that ST accepted it with losing the International Trade Agreement, but of course he gets some additional culture production now, which is also not bad. And for LC of course the 4 additional strength are quite important, and also ST maybe didn't want me to win a lot by this war, maybe fearing that my position could get too strong, but sadly now LC doesn't have the biggest problems. Also with the tanks revealed, he can go for 1 team sports, and with being able to upgrade to those tanks, he can get a reasonable amount of strength without requiring new population in the military, and together with the 4 strength from the pact, sadly he can relatively easily go up to 27 strength. He still needed to do some investments. I still will at least deal 1 science, but I really was hoping that this war would do some bigger damage to him. ST will increase his population 2 times, getting him out of corruption. Then he will build 1 cavalryman, making sure that he's the strongest. At least that again means that I will get 3 additional resources out of Maria Theresa. He will take the revolutionary idea, flaming multimedia, goes for the organized religion, and then the patriotism. So taking a lot of cards from the row. With multimedia and flaming, he has some big culture potential, especially because there's also the Hollywood in the game. Then it is my turn. I will steal 1 science from LC. The question is how to use my politics phase. I could of course see it, but it would mean that the Ravages of Time are revealed. It is somewhat nice for me that this event has now been staying in the deck for quite a while, because I think for now I really like to have more civil actions than the 2 culture production that I would be getting. And the question is how important would be the civil actions this turn, and how much do I want to put those events into the deck. At the end, I thought I don't really want to put the events into the deck now. The Impact of Harmony is definitely a pack that can be quite nice for me, but it could also be important to have more time to be prepared for it. And if it is in the next deck already, it could maybe be revealed too early. It could be nice if it is maybe revealed later on, and I can really prepare for it maybe at my last turn, shuffle around some workers and make that impact very big, so I didn't want to push that now. And as you maybe have noticed, I don't have a Happy Face solution, there won't be any copy of Pro Sports in the row, so I definitely don't want to push the immigration. And so instead I thought, after isn't it quite a lot nicer, instead of stealing some signs from each other, to cooperate? And so, yeah, after going for this war, I offered the scientific cooperation to Elsie, and gladly he doesn't hold any grudges and will accept this pact. I will develop one technology this turn. He could potentially develop two, for example the two that he has in hand, but he really doesn't need a cavalryman to be out, so I was hoping that he also will only develop one technology at his next turn. I will take the revolutionary idea, and so I was hoping that at the end maybe we will at least get a relatively similar amount of value out of it, but it's of course a bit dangerous with having Newton and that much science production. There's definitely the chance that Elsie at the end might be able to get more value out of it, but maybe there's also the chance that I could cancel the pact in case there would be such a danger. Then I will use the Oceanliner service to increase my population. I definitely want to build one cannon with the additional resources that I have available, especially because there might be a chance that I win the Uncertain Borders then. And with the Uncertain Borders coming, and with me wanting to put a little bit of pressure on my opponents, I made the decision to also build another copy of cannons immediately, going up to 39 strength. I really want to have the revolutionary idea. I have some decent science production, but if I want to go for an H3 government form, then I might still need a revolutionary idea. And I also definitely wanted to have the fundamentalism, because one way how I can maybe win this game is with going for a lot of military with all of the population that I'm having together with Maria Theresa, especially if I do get a Happy Face solution and maybe Pro Sports for even more strength. That I think could be a very viable way to win, and then the fundamentalism could be a very important card, and also economically be somewhat nice with me being on monarchy still. So I definitely wanted to have those two cards. And I could just spend all of my other civil actions to take some cards, but I thought that might be too much, and at some point I need to go for selective breeding anyway, and if I go for it now, it means that I can even increase my population once normally at the next turn, getting even more value out of Maria Theresa, so I thought it's maybe now a nice time to go for the selective breeding. And then with my last two civil actions I made a decision to go for the urban growth. I thought about taking modern infantry and the engineering genius. The engineering genius could potentially be quite nice, but when I lose the pyramids to the ravages of time, it's not that easy for me to grab a wonder. Maybe I will go for a lot of military anyway, and if I don't go for those wonders at the next turn, then the wonders that are left are maybe not that easily usable for me. So it's definitely not guaranteed that the engineering genius will actually give me any value, while one thing that I really want to do is to go for the Pro Sports. If I have the chance to do this, I very likely will just do it immediately at the next turn. And the urban growth will give me some value immediately, so that in the end I prefer the urban growth, and for that I think it's also still quite nice to have the the additional civil action from the pyramids. I was now hoping to maybe draw wars, because it could be nice to have the option to go for war. Sadly I don't draw a war yet, but an infantry is also probably not needed. Impact of government maybe can be fine if I go for an H3 government form, but this also should be quite fine for my opponents. Now finally the ravages of time will be revealed, meaning I will be down to 5 civil actions at my next turn. Elsie has to lose the library, and ST will likely lose the Stonehenge. Elsie will go for the oil, will use the Scientific Cooperation Pact, improves his economy on top of his nice culture productions. I was definitely a bit worried that maybe with having that many civil actions, and with me dropping down to 5 civil actions, and with not having a war, it could be a bit tricky to not fall behind if the game stays peaceful, but maybe there's still a chance that I can pull off a big war and use the additional population that I have to my advantage. But Elsie has now also a lot of yellow cards in hand, that of course also some nice value for him. He also builds a knight, maybe he needs the 2 additional strength in order to not be in danger of an aggression. ST goes for the communism, can do a very cheap revolution, gets more military actions like that, and after that he will switch to flaming for the additional culture production, goes for the mechanized agriculture for an upgrade, takes the air forces and takes the tanks. And then it is my turn, and as you can see, there is a copy of Pro Sports coming down the road. It wasn't denied by ST because there could have been just a second copy revealed, and I was definitely quite happy about it, because when I don't get any happy face solution, it might be quite dangerous, or it might be quite annoying. This turn, the Impact of Harmony will take longer until it will be revealed, so I was willing to seed it into the deck now. I also wanted to start pushing some impacts now, that I don't know if I maybe can go for war, or even if I go for war, it hopefully will still be nice, and that means that I can win the Uncertain Borders, which is also nice. I can use the Ocean Liner service to increase my population. I can go for one Bro Sport using the Urban Growth with the Silk Road bonus. I could have also not used it, but because it actually caused me some corruption issues, because with my last civil action I will take a copy of movies. I just wanted to have a way to increase my culture production peacefully, and that also sets me up for one more leader, potentially for a wonder like the Hollywood, so I just wanted to have this really as a peaceful option available. And then I could have maybe not used the Urban Growth, used it later on, but in case I still maybe get a war and can go for a lot of military, it could be important that I have used it already, so that I have as many resources available for the military as possible, and at least I have a way to get out of corruption, which is relatively nice, because I can just for one resource, together with the additional resource from Maria Theresa, build a warrior, and then it does not only is not normally it's equally, you can basically build a warrior for free if it means that it gets you out of corruption, but this time it even saves me basically one resource, so I can build this warrior. And now if I should get a war, maybe you can threaten to go for the fundamentalism in another army, or maybe you can play more turns and make this potentially even bigger. So no, it could be nice to have a war as an option. But with the movies, I also have now some ways to maybe still stay in the game peacefully, and at least for now I will be at 73 culture after my turn, so I'm still basically at the very same amount of as Elsie. ST is a little bit behind, but he has the potential to maybe go for big Hollywood, but no. But it would maybe also leave him a little bit vulnerable. He did got the Air Forces, and that might help him to threaten enough strength. I do draw some cards, sadly no war, but maybe some impacts that could be interesting. Elsie will go for the Manhattan Project, so he prepares himself for the war, and with him also taking modern infantry, the military build-up, I think he is maybe preparing him very nicely for the military anyway, and maybe a war would not work out for me at the end anyway. At least not against him, but as he has the Air Forces, which helps him play the patriotism, go for an Air Force, builds one organized religion, is now at 42 strength, only 2 strength behind me, and then he can take a lot of yellow cards, gets a lot of value out of them, and plays the revolutionary idea. Now it is my turn, and I seeded immigration into the deck because I didn't want to commit to any of those impacts. The impact of government will be improved because this turn I will actually go for the democracy, but my opponents still have quite strong government forms, and there's even a chance that ST might get a military theory on top of that. Impact of balance is not looking that great for me at the moment, and impact of architecture could be very nice, but at my turn I have to think about, do I want to go for Bill Gates? If I don't go for him, Elsie will be able to get him, and probably together with computers, because I won't take those computers. And then he has the potential to build a lot of urban buildings. I didn't want to commit to any of those impacts, instead just took the 2 culture from the immigration, and the event revealed is the arms industry. I think that was the one event that I didn't have knowledge about. The other events I still know from Nostradamus, I was reading it myself. So the arms industry giving me 2 additional resources. And in this turn I will go for the democracy. I don't have drawn a war. Even if I should draw one, it's definitely not certain if I would even be able to pull it off. And so I think I have now to concentrate myself to just score as much culture as possible. And so I go for the democracy. And what I can do with my last civil actions is to take one leader, play the revolutionary idea, develop the movies, and build one movie. And that also gladly gets me out of corruption. But the question is which leader to go for. Of course, if I go for the movies, it makes a lot of sense to go for Chaplin. He will just provide me 4 additional culture every turn. Also, the happy faces could be a little bit relevant, maybe for an impact of happiness. So that would be very solid. And in case I should get to Hollywood, that could also maybe at least be an option. Even with maybe only having 1 or 2 movies. Likely I would only be able to go for 1 movie. To maybe score a bit of culture from a wonder, even though maybe it might be better to maximize culture production and prepare for impacts, for example, impact of architecture anyway. But I was a bit afraid that Bill Gates might be quite strong for Elsie. Of course, it's very late in the game, but he can, with those efficient upgrades and urban growth, easily go for computers, maybe build additional computers, and then still get one big production from Bill Gates, and then also a lot of culture at the end of the game. So I think he might be the leader that he would prefer if he has to choose, can choose freely. So I thought about going for Bill Gates myself, denying him from Elsie, but also still getting some value out of him myself. It's relatively nicely calculated. It's in the situation possible to calculate very nicely how much resource I will have available, because one copy of reserves is here, and then apart from that there's only a revolutionary under patriotism left. This copy of reserves likely will be taken, so I have to expect that there aren't really any additional resources coming from any sources, maybe from the engineering potentially, but it might also be taken away by ST, for example. And with that, if I go now for one movie with Chaplin, I have just enough resource to go for 2 more movies, one in the next turn, one at the last turn, and 1 farm to improve my impact of harmony, which would be fine. If I go for Bill Gates, I can go for 1 movie now, at the next turn for 1 movie and 1 lab, and then at the last turn still for 1 more movie and also 1 more farm. And that would mean that I miss out on a culture production from Chaplin, but I have 6 culture from Bill Gates at the end. I am better for the impact of architecture, and that might definitely be a very seedable impact then. And so it could maybe be fine, but I would miss out on 12 culture from Chaplin. At the end, I just thought it is too much, and if I do go for Bill Gates, Elsie can still go for Steve Jobs, who also maybe can offer him a nice amount of value. So at the end I just went for Chaplin, because I thought for myself he is better, and I also have to be careful if I make some sacrifices for myself just to go for denial against Elsie, then that I don't fall behind ST at the end. So I go for Chaplin, play the revolutionary idea, go for the movies, build one, just gets me out of corruption, and also puts me at 16 culture production, so I'm at 92, meaning I have now a culture lead again, and hopefully when I maybe can also seed some impacts into the deck, it could give me some chances, but Elsie might be able to make this Manhattan project really big, might score a nice endgame bonus with Bill Gates, and could have also some nice impacts, so I was definitely a bit afraid that maybe I don't have enough power just building more movies to finish before Elsie. But on the other hand, I will build 1 more movie likely at the next turn, maybe another one at the last turn, giving me really a lot of culture production, and so I definitely also still can have some nice hopes, especially if I draw maybe some nice impacts or find some ways to make those impacts that I have in hand work very nicely. Sadly, I don't draw another impact, so that's not ideal. And LCC's, the international agreement, is revealed, so I at the next turn have the option to maybe take some cards from it, with me not having drawn another impact and not all of them being easily seedable. It could maybe be quite nice to skip the politics phase for once, if I can get some nice value out of it. Elsie will indeed go for the computers, builds one, also goes for the democracy, maybe in order to improve his culture production at the next turn, but maybe also very likely to have another urban building slot that he can make the Manhattan project and the Bill Gates bonus even bigger. He will disband a warrior, builds another tank so that he isn't in danger of an aggression, maybe also not from a war, goes for 1 more upgrade, and has now a very strong production and will get a big Manhattan project and a big Bill Gates bonus at the end. Now H4 will start, and ST will go for the multimedia, improving his culture production. I had some small hopes that maybe one of the cards from the reserves engineering might be available for me to save some resources, because ST likely will take the Hollywood, but sadly he can now take the Hollywood and both of those cards away from me. But he is interestingly going for the military theory, maybe as an impact for that, maybe wants to have a way to get a bit of additional strength. I'm not sure if he also maybe still has to be a little bit careful about a war, even though I think that I'm not that threatening any longer. So I was a bit surprised to see him take the military theory. It's definitely better for impacts than the maze, than the engineering, because it gives +2 for progress and +2 for variety compared to going for the engineering, and engineering doesn't provide any value, but the engineering has now the chance to provide me maybe some additional value, so I was happy to have the chance to take that. And but as you can see, I'm missing 1 science to go for it immediately and save some resource immediately, and because of that I am at my turn, especially with I am not having the greatest impacts to seed anyway. I made a decision to use the international agreement and then only seed one impact at the next turn. At this point, I thought maybe likely the impact of architecture. And then, thanks to being able to take the revolutionary idea, I can actually develop the engineering already this turn, saving me 3 resources when building this movie. Sadly, I'm missing 1 resource to build another movie immediately, and also sadly, after increasing my population normally, I'm still not out of corruption. If I would be out of corruption now, I could maybe just build 2 more movies even at the next turn, going up to 28 culture production, having a nice impact of architecture, even though LCs would also be quite fine, so it would probably be something like a neutral impact for me. But that would be quite strong, but sadly it's not possible for me to do this. And so the question is what else to do. There's still the impact of harmony coming, which I might want to be prepared for anyway the next turn. But at this point maybe I was a little bit too fixated on the impact of architecture, and I maybe missed out a little bit that it could actually be quite nice at the next turn to really prepare for the impact of harmony, because at the same time I have the chance to maybe make the impact of balance quite a decent impact, which is 12 for LC, at the moment 10 for ST. The impact of architecture likely will be even or maybe even +1 for LC. But the impact of balance, if I just build 2 farms, one of them an H2 farm, and maybe go for upgrades to computers, could even give me +4 against LC, and at the same time I'm missing out on maybe the culture production that I could get from the movies, but I get for each farm +4 from the impact of harmony. So the next turn I will go for a variation like this. And maybe I should have seen it already this turn, because now I will build a pro sports to get out of corruption in anticipation of the impact of architecture. Of course, it's also nice for auto impact, so it's not bad for 4 resources to build this. But at the next turn, it could potentially turn out to be a mistake. Maybe it could have been nice to already build an H2 farm. Sadly, an HA farm actually doesn't get me out of corruption, because then there would have just been a transfer from 1 blue token here to 1 blue token here. So, and that wouldn't be enough to get out of corruption. Of course, that would be a hint for both impact of harmony and balance. Maybe that would mean that my opponents would adjust to that, but ST will be able to take a look at my hand anyway at my impacts with flaming, so he can adjust anyway, and LC maybe just wants to maximize his cards from the Manhattan project anyway. So maybe just building an H2 farm could have been better, because the pro sports at the next turn might actually not really be that much needed, because the impact of architecture, as a little spoiler, I won't see it at the next turn. And then with my last 2 actions I will just take those 2 technologies. When we take a look at the overview at the end of my turn, we can see that I have still a bit of a culture lead. I have the biggest culture reduction, but I won't get a wonder, and LC will get a big wonder and a big Bill Gates bonus at the end, so I was still skeptical to finish before him. But I have quite a nice lead before ST, and his Hollywood is decent, but not too big, so I was hoping that I have good chance to finish before him. But against LC I was not too confident, especially because maybe if we see it's not impacts, he could have potentially maybe 2 strong impacts. And then it might be quite difficult. But I was happy to see that he doesn't have an impact, instead a military alliance, so he misses out on 3 culture for scoring, playing an impact, and there's not and then he won't have another potentially strong impact in there, so that definitely gives me some hope, even though the military alliance could maybe also be annoying in case there is an impact of strength in there, and that now maybe gets a bit more difficult for me to prepare to. At least with not seeding the LC, make sure that a civil unrest isn't revealed, which is in there, and which would have cost him 4 culture when seeding. And he will just go for 4 computers. There's now a 24 science production, and that means that he can finish the Manhattan project for 24 culture. That is quite big, and he also will get 12 additional culture with Bill Gates at the end of the game. ST this turn will develop the military theory, and now the strength from it might be quite useful for him, because it actually makes it that he has more strength than me, and if there's an impact of strength, which maybe could have been seeded by LC, even though it would be a bit risky, then if I don't prepare for it, then ST might score now more culture than me, especially also thanks to the military alliance. Here at his turn will just go for the Hollywood, plays the endowment for 6 culture, and then builds 1 religion for 1 more culture production. So now it is my turn, and again at the beginning of my turn I was still thinking that maybe I might push the impact of architecture, but now I came relatively quickly to the conclusion that the impact of balance is just a bit better, and at my turn I can also do some really concrete calculations, because there's actually only one unknown impact in there, which is nice, and that was seeded by Elsie, so I can really think about a turn where I maybe have good chances to win and only very few impacts could mess with me. And no, I said my first idea was to maybe just build a movie, maybe a farm or something, and then I can play the impact of architecture, score more culture production thanks to the movie, and that would be fine. I then even found a better solution with building a movie, destroying the religion, and then building 2 farms, costing me 1 culture reduction, but making my harmony even better. But I then came to the conclusion that now the impact of architecture would still be, if I build 1 more movie, -1 from me against Elsie, while the impact of balance I can make to +2 or even +4 if I go for the computers, and I can easily make the harmony also quite big with that. So the impact of balance is definitely the better impact to seed here. And yeah, this turn, as I said, I can do a lot of calculations, and so I did some. Was a little bit of a puzzle. I have a lot of different variations how I can improve my harmony while still maybe going for a bit of culture. But at the end, it basically came down to 2 main options, and for both of those options I will build 2 farms, going up to 8 food production, improving my impact of balance, but now I have 2 different things that I can do. Either I can improve my impact of balance even more with going for computer upgrades, basically giving impact of balance +2. If I should do this, there are actually only 2 impacts that could be in this 1 impact slot, which would allow Elsie to win this game, and also I should have very good chances, or it's almost basically guaranteed that it will finish before ST, and there would only be 2 impacts that would allow Elsie to win. It's the impact of science and the impact of strength. For all of the other impacts I am actually quite nicely prepared. Progress, competition, variety, wonders, all of those are quite nice. So yeah, if I go for this, then those impacts are the only ones that would cause me to not win this game. But maybe there's a way how I can actually improve the impact of strength. Sadly, going for the rockets and playing patriotism is now not enough to overtake Elsie. Also wouldn't have been enough with the without the military alliance, but now the easiest way to get more strength, first of all, I thought about maybe building another pro sports, but the easiest way is just to develop air forces, play the patriotism, and move this warrior into air forces. Then I'm actually the strongest. And I only miss out on 2 culture from balance, and that would mean that the impact of science would actually be the only impact where I would finish at a 2nd position. But while I would then win the game if the impact of strength is revealed, there's 1 impact that would then cause the game to happen in a draw between me and Elsie, and that would be in the impact of colonies, which would give Elsie +3. With improving my balance with going for computers, I would be at 5 culture, +5 culture, before this 1 unknown impact is revealed. And on the Bill Gates bonus, of course, already included. But if I miss out on the 2 from balance and go for an air force, then I have 3 more culture, and if then the impact of colonies would be this 1 impact, then it would be a tie. So the question is, do I want to be in a situation where where I lose to 2 impacts, or where I lose to 1 impact, and 1 impact would, or not lose, but finish at the 2nd place, and 1 impact would result in a tie. So when thinking about that, of course it would be nice to then have this option where 1 impact results in a tie, but on the other hand, it's also the question, how likely is it actually that Elsie seeded the impact of strength? It's definitely possible. Maybe he thought that he might need to take some risks, but he already seeded it at a turn before. He knew, of course, that he will finish the Manhattan Project, that he has the military build-up, but he also doesn't have the most population, so in order to really make sure that he wins it, he would maybe need to destroy something. Maybe he was just willing to go for this gamble, but I have now a relatively easy option to overtake him in strength, which maybe could makes it that the impact of strength is actually not that likely to be in there, while if Elsie would have the impact of colonies, he probably would just push it without thinking. So it was still quite a close decision. At the end I thought a tie would maybe be a fine outcome for me, And so I went for the play with the Air Forces, but at the end it will just depend on what impact LC has drawn. And with going for this Air Force, it means if the one impact from LC is the impact of science, he wins the game. If it is the impact of colonies, it will be a tie between me and him, and all the other impacts would mean that I would be able to win the game. Before the final impacts, it's relatively close. Elsie will of course get a Bill Gates bonus. ST is also not that far behind, but I have some nice impacts against him, and then ST has, sadly for him, not ceded any impact himself. And now I will now it will of course be very exciting to see what the one unknown impact is. If it is the impact of colonies, of course, I might be a bit unhappy about my decision, but at least I would still have a tie. But sadly, as you can see, my hopes are getting destroyed relatively quickly. The impact of science is the unknown impact, and with that, Elsie getting plus 14 culture against me. Sadly, I won't be able to win this game. Also, even if I would have gone for computers, I still would have scored 0 in this impact. And even if I scored 7, it would still not be enough to finish before Elsie. So sadly, that one impact was the wrong one. The impact of balance is then revealed, giving me a little bit of additional culture against my opponents. And then the impact of harmony is especially nice, giving me plus 28 at the end, and even being able to overtake Elsie. But of course, there's still one thing missing, and it is the Bill Gates bonus, and with that, Elsie is again able to overtake me again. So Elsie manages to win this game, very nicely played by him, managed to set up a strong economy, then went for the Eiffel Tower, which worked out very nicely for him. He catched up in culture quite heavily, and I then tried to threaten a bit of military. Didn't get a war, but Elsie might have been able to defend himself very nicely anyway. And then I went for Chaplain and movies, scoring a lot of culture, and it was quite close at the end. It came down to what impact was in there by Elsie. And it was the impact of science, but it also was the only impact that he seeded. There would have been definitely some neutral ones, or the impact of colonies that he could have pushed. So I think it's not unlucky or something that it is the impact of science, because he could have pushed multiple impacts. But at the end, I was prepared actually quite nicely for a lot of impacts. I actually only realized this at my last turn. That there's actually only very few impacts that would allow Elsie to win. But at the end, he has the impact of science, and with that is able to win this game. I'm at least at the second position, and ST is in the third position. And with this game finished, we can now also take a look at the standings, and there has also been one game finished where I wasn't involved, and we can take a look at this outcome now. And the one game where I wasn't involved was a 3-player game between all of my opponents, and there actually Elsie managed to win as well. Wozniak finished at the second position, ST lost the game. With that we have the following standings, and Elsie has had a very strong start so far in the first half of his games that he has finished. Now his 4 games finished, 16 points, has managed to win 3 of his games, and here at the beginning of the stage was maybe a little bit of an underdog with being a little bit behind the click rating, but so far he is showing a very strong performance and is definitely showing that at this point of the tournament, all of the players have chances to score very nicely. So a very strong start by him. I still have a decent position. I have one less game finished, but I'm already 5 points behind, so it would definitely be important to get some nice results in the coming games, especially in the games where Elsie is also involved. And then Wozniak is again also a bit behind, but he has only 3 games finished, so he definitely can, with getting some nice results, still have a good shot at the first position. But for ST, it now gets quite difficult. He basically has to, from now on, win every game. Otherwise, I think his chances to win this group are very bad. I mean, what amount of points can he score if he wins all of his games? I think it would be 17 points. Even that might very likely not be enough. I think for him everything has to go perfect now. Maybe it's not even possible, I don't know it, but for him at the start of this stage was definitely not that great, and now he has maybe no chances, maybe very, very small chances to still advance to the next stage. With that, I'm still happy about my position, but I definitely have to be careful, especially if Elsie manages to score as nice results in the following games to not fall too much behind behind him. Alright, then that was that for this video. I hope it was an interesting game for you to watch. And yeah, don't forget to sign up for the next year's World Championship. That hopefully will still again be a very, very exciting tournament. And I hope you're looking forward to the next games. Then thanks for watching and see you in the next video.